Hello, hello. Okay, get out those notebooks. Let's take some notes. Open it up to your next blank page. Title of today's lesson is Simplifying Expressions. Simplifying expressions. Okay, so this is going to kind of take the last couple lessons and kind of put it all together, which is a beautiful thing. The notes should hopefully go quicker than other lessons. But before we get into writing our notes, I kind of want to just do some sticky note math. I do this a lot in class where I put stuff on a sticky note. Now it's your choice. If you find this valuable, then you can write it in your notes by all means, okay? But this is kind of just to build up to the lesson. Okay, so what I first want to talk about is we're going to have a lot of operations happening today. We're going to be adding variables, adding terms, and then we're going to also be multiplying terms all at the same time. So just like 4 plus 5 is different than 4 times 5, right? We know that. These are also totally different expressions. 4x plus 5x is not going to be the same thing as 4x times 5x. So real quick, in your head, I want you to go ahead and add these together and see if you can multiply these up. Let's see if you've been paying attention in the last few classes. So if I were to add 4x plus 5x, first of all, when I'm adding, I need to make sure that terms are alike. The only way I can add or subtract terms, which is combining, is if they are like terms. Like terms have the same variable raised to the same power. So they both have x's and the x's have the same exponent. So yes, I can put them together. So all I do is I basically just add the coefficients. 4x plus 5x is 9x. That's it, okay? Now when I go down here, 4x times 5x, they don't have to be like terms in order to multiply. You can multiply whatever the heck you want to multiply. To add or subtract, they have to be alike. But to multiply, no rules, okay? So when you're multiplying things, I usually just start with the coefficients. 4 times 5 is 20. And then x times x, remember how to write that? X times x is the same thing as x to the second power, or x squared, okay? So 2 very different problems there. Now let's bump it up one more notch. Okay, 4x plus 5y, 4x times 5y. So let's go ahead and think back. To combine like terms, to add or subtract, they have to have the same variable raised to the same power. So can I add 4x plus 5y? Can I add those up? And the answer is no. I can't combine those. Those are not like terms. So you guess what 4x plus 5y is? It's just 4x plus 5y. That's already simplified. And you could just write already simplified. Or if that was truly like a, homework question or test question, you could really just write 4x plus 5y as your final answer and box it up, okay? 4x times 5y. Now, think back to just a minute ago when I said multiply. When you're multiplying, you can multiply whatever the heck you want to multiply. They don't have to be like terms. Start with your coefficients. 4 times 5 is 20. X times y. Do you remember that? X times y is just x, y. That's how you write it. Okay? So all of that stuff, if that seems new to you, then you need to go re-watch the previous lessons, okay? So now let's get into simplifying expressions. I love this stuff. I find it relaxing because, that's a weird thing about me, but I'm a math teacher, so whatever, I'm allowed to be a nerd. Okay, so we're gonna write down, there's 2 steps to this. Okay, so let's write down the steps first and then we'll basically practice. Here is step 1. Step 1, you're gonna write distributive property. Step 2 is combine like terms. Those are your 2 steps. Okay. Now, question is, can I do step 2 first? Absolutely not. And let me tell you why. The reasons why I'm telling you guys to distribute first has everything to do with order of operations. So maybe off to the side, go ahead and write PEMDAS. Just as a reference over here, okay? We always follow order of operations, always, always, always in math, okay? So why must distributive property come first? Well, when you're distributing something multiplication-wise, right? You're taking a number out front and you're multiplying, that falls under M, multiplication, okay? So distributive property is like this M. Whereas combining like terms, did I spell that right? Combine, yeah. Sorry, combine like terms, that's when you're adding or subtracting terms. So this right here is addition and subtraction. So it makes sense why you would have to distribute before you can combine. It's because order of operations says you have to do your multiplication before you can add or subtract. That's the simple answer. Okay? So now let's get some problems so you can kind of go, oh, that's what that lady's talking about. So here we go. Here's number 1. Number 1, you're going to have a 5 right next to a set of parentheses. Inside your parentheses is 2x plus 3. Go ahead and close your parentheses. But guess what? There's more. After all of that, you're going to have a plus x here. So this is an expression. There's no equation, so technically we're not solving. We're not solving for x or anything like that yet. Okay, we're just simplifying it. We're cleaning it up. That's how I think of it in my head. And I look at this and I say, what can I do to make this more simple? Okay, to make the end result a little less messy than what it is now. Okay, and you're going to follow these 2 steps. If there's distributive property, sometimes there won't be, but if there's distributive property, that must be done first. Okay, do your eyes see distributive property? I hope so. Distributive property is when there's a number right in front of parentheses. That's happening right here. So that's going to be the first thing I take care of. So this 5 is going to get multiplied to both terms on the inside. 5 times 2x is 10x. 5 times positive 3 is positive 15. Okay, so we just performed distributive property. Now, after you do that step, you're going to go ahead and bring down anything that was unused. So I'm going to bring down this little plus x. So I've cleaned that part up a bit. I've made that look a little bit less scary, right? After distributive property, what do? I combine like terms. You can only add or subtract terms that have the same variable raised to the same power. Got to have that in your head, okay? Same variable raised to the same power. So a 10x can go with this x. Remember the secret coefficient? What number is technically in front of that x? It's a 1. So 10x plus 1x is 11x. And then the 15 doesn't have any like terms, so I just drop it down. And then you ask yourself, is there anything left to combine? Can I put 11x with 15? Can I add that up? No, I can't. If that 15 had an x on it, I could, but it doesn't. So they're not like terms. So my final simplified answer is 11x plus 15. Now this looks a lot cleaner, a lot less messy, a lot less confusing than this. But guess what? They're equal to each other, okay? This is just the more simplified version. That's why this is called simplifying expressions. Here's number 2. You got a 3 right in front of a set of parentheses. On the inside, you have 1 plus 4y. Close the parentheses. And then outside of that, you're going to add 10y. Okay. All right. So distributive property first, because I have to multiply before I can add or subtract, right? So my eyes see that right here. So I start distributing that 3. 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 4y is positive 12y. And then I just drop down anything that's left over. Okay, so I could, check that off my list. We did distributive property. What's next? I see if there's any terms that I can combine, any like terms. 3 doesn't really have any friends, so I'm just going to drop it down. 12y and 10y, those can go together. 12 plus 10 is 22, so that would be positive 22y. Now, I'm not going to box this yet because I'm hoping you look at that and go, I think we need to switch the order. Yeah, 3 is your constant. There's no variable attached. And if you remember from like last week, I think, that guy is going to go at the back. And the 22y, since there is a variable, it's more powerful. You can think of it like that. That's going to go in the front. 22y is positive. The 3 is positive, so we put a plus sign. So that's going to be what my final answer looks like. Okay. Number 3. All right. Number 3, 10w minus 2. That 2 is directly next to a set of parentheses. And inside your parentheses, you have 6w minus 4. Okay. Whew. So looks kind of ugly, which is why we're simplifying it. We're cleaning it up. So do you see any distributive property? That's what your eyes need to find first. Distributive property, I'm looking for some parentheses with a number out front. That's right there. Okay. Now this is the biggest mistake I would have my kids make. So I don't want you to make it ever, ever, ever. Okay. It's okay if you do, just like don't. Is it a 2 that we're going to multiply throughout the parentheses? Or is it a negative 2? Ask yourself that question. Is that a positive 2 or a negative 2? And oh my dear God, I hope you said negative. That's a negative 2. We need to take ownership of the symbol in front of that number. So a negative 2 is going to be multiplying throughout. So we have negative 2 times 6w. That's negative 12w. And then you have a negative 2 times a negative 4. Negative times negative, positive. So that would be plus 8. So we did the distributive property. Now you're going to drop down anything that was unused. So I'm going to drop down the 10w. Notice how I didn't drop down another subtraction sign or whatever, because that was combined with the 2 when you multiplied it through. Okay. So now I have 10w minus 12w plus 8. Now we're combining like terms, seeing if I can add or subtract anything. 10w and negative 12w are like terms. I think of it as 10 minus 12. If you want to think of it as 10 plus negative 12, you're going to get the same answer, negative 2w. And then 8 doesn't have friends, so I drop it down. Now, is this written in standard form? Meaning, is my constant at the back? Are the variables out front? And the answer is yes. Okay, the term with the variables out front, constant is in the back. So that's our final answer. Okay, number 4. I'm trying to trick you here. Let's make sure you don't get tricked. 8 minus 2. That 2 is right next to a set of parentheses. Inside your parentheses, you have 3n minus 5, end your parentheses. And then you're going to subtract n. Okay. Okay. The biggest mistake that kids, if I said just solve, go ahead, simplify. A lot of kids want to go right here and do 8 minus 2, 6. And then they would multiply a 6 throughout the parentheses. That's wrong. And I need you to ask yourself, why is that wrong? Why should I not go 8 minus 2 real quick? It's right there. It's so simple. Why would I not want to do 8 minus 2? Hopefully you're thinking of order of operations. Should I be subtracting before I use distributive property? No, 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 no. Rules, right? Follow the order. So I have to start with distributive property. So what number is right next to the set of parentheses? 2 or negative 2? That's a negative 2. So you're going to multiply a negative 2 throughout the parentheses. Negative 2 times 3n is negative 6n. Negative 2 times negative 5, negative times negative, positive 10. Okay, so I've done my distributive property. Now I'm going to drop down the 8 and drop down the minus n. Okay. Distributive property is done. I'm going to combine like terms. This 8, does it have any friends? Yes, it does. Positive 8 can go with positive 10. 8 plus 10, 18. Negative 6n can go with the negative n. Careful with your negatives here. Negative 6, and then this is like a negative 1. Negative 6 plus negative 1 is negative 7. So that would be minus 7n. Okay. Now, am I going to box this up? Is this how I write my final answer in standard form? No. Put your term with the variable out front. Is it positive 7n or negative? Negative. 18, though, is positive, so we write plus 18. Okay. If this process right here, going from 18 minus 7n to negative 7n plus 18, if that's confusing to you, please, 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 let's set up a time during like office hours or hawk time, and we'll go over that. It won't take long. I'll help you out, okay? Okay, here we go. 2 more. 10y minus, and then you're going to have a set of parentheses. Inside your parentheses, you have 12y plus 3. That's it. Now, I would love for you to pause the video here and see if you can just do this without me talking, okay? Pause. And when you're ready to check, let's go ahead and do this. Okay, tried to trick you. Hopefully I didn't though. I gotta do distributive property first. That's what this lady's saying, right? Well, I see some parentheses, but is there a number in front of it? It looks like there's just a minus sign. Do I put the 10y? Do I maybe distribute the 10y? To answer that question, you gotta know, is the 10y right next to the parentheses? No, it's not, okay? It's kind of away from it. The number that's right next to the set of parentheses is a secret one, or in this case, it's a secret negative one. So you're gonna have to multiply a negative 1 throughout the parentheses. Negative 1 times 12y is negative 12y. Negative 1 times positive 3 is negative 3. Okay, so we did our distributive property. Now you're going to drop down that 10y that was out front. After you distribute, combine like terms. 10y minus 12y. 10 minus 12 is negative 2, so that'd be negative 2y. Drop down to negative 3. It is in standard form already, so my final answer is negative 2y minus 3. Okay, we're going to do one more together. This is kind of like a Go big or go home type question. Ready? Okay. It's a lot. Don't write too big. -5 is right next to a set of parentheses. You have -2 minus 4x, and then end your parentheses. -3 on the outside of that, but that 3 is next to a set of parentheses. And inside the parentheses, you have x minus 7. And then go ahead and end those parentheses. Some of you are seeing the smile on my face saying, this lady is torturing us. I'm not. I'm just trying to make you see that math just has patterns over and over. You're following procedures. I find that calming because if I follow a procedure, I'm going to get it right. Okay? So we still are doing distributive property first. So when your eyes go searching in this question for distributive property, I hope you go, but wait, there's like 2 sets of parentheses, which means there's double distributive property here. That's okay. I see a -5 that I'm going to distribute there, and I see a -3 that I'm going to distribute on this one. Okay, so we're doing some double distributive property, and that's totally fine. Let's start with the first set. -5 times -2, +10. -5 times -4x is +20x. Okay, I'm not going to drop down a minus sign, don't, because that minus sign really belongs to the 3. So I have negative times x, which is -3x. And I have -3 times -7, which is +21. Okay, so I'm just going to check my work real quick. +10, +20x, -3x plus 21. Okay. So I did double distributive property. Now I'm going to combine like terms. This 10, does it have any friends? Yes, it does. 10 plus 21 is 31. I'm going to put my x's together. +20x minus 3x is +17x. Is this your final answer? Just need to flip it around. That 17x needs to be out front, added with 31. So final answer, 17x plus 31. Okay, so if you're confused, kind of go back, rewind, and kind of rewatch and make sure you're listening, okay? But I'm going to go ahead and give you your final 2 problems. These 2 problems you'll do on your own. Excuse me, you'll do on your own. And they'll be your entry task questions when you see me either Thursday or Friday, depending on what class you're in. So these are problems you need to do before class. Thank you so much. Here's number 7. There's a lot to write, so write small. You got a 3. That 3 is right next to a set of parentheses. On the inside, you have 10 minus 4y. Then, after that, you're going to minus a 2. But that 2 is right next to a set of parentheses. Inside your parentheses is -3y plus 8. I hope you're looking at that going, oh, that's like the last question. You got double distributive property. Yep. Okay, and number 8. You're going to start with a -18. And you're going to add 5. And that 5 is right next to a set of parentheses. On the inside, you have 2x minus 4. And then end your parentheses. And then at the end, after that, is minus 10x. Okay? So distribute first, then combine like terms. Make sure your final answer is written in standard form. That's what I want you to have done before you come to class. Thanks, guys. Have fun.